Welcome back. This is Paranormal Radio. I'm your host, Captain Jack. I'm here with Karen and Dan, and oh my goodness, welcome back, you two.
Hello, good to be back.
So, just before the first hour of the show, we had a little bit of a problem with all of our audios, and Jimmy was trying to fix them on the fly, but I'm happy to report that I think we're all fixed up. I think. So we're going to see how that goes.
I must apologise. I had my mic in the wrong place. So I apologise to your listeners if they had any echoes or strange sounds coming from my head.
Jimmy was he was actually on the fly. He was like it looked like he was playing the piano over there. He was actually adjusting all your peaks and levels over there. And
poor guy. No, it was me. I had my mic in the wrong place. Sorry.
Not a problem at all. So welcome back. Listen,
everybody listening.
I wanted to start off this second hour because I know out in Seattle we run out of time quickly. So, Karen, just kind of go through and tell us about some of these experiences that you had starting at a young age, because I have some questions about it, and I really want to know exactly how this started and how you processed it at such a young age, and just tell us how it all happened.
Okay, well, when I was about, the earliest I can remember would be about 3 years old, and we were living in quite a rural area, really. Small town, about 2,000 people. Night, and my sister was also in the bed next to me, and I would get what I call the fuzz, but it's a beautiful, calm, beautiful feeling, and I just knew, that, I'm going to be visiting my family again tonight. And so I used to get up, and I used to be very, very quiet because I was terrified of waking my parents up. And I used to tiptoe down the hallway, and it was always at 2:30 in the morning. And I used to unlock the back door, and I used to go out and wait in my nightie on the gravel driveway. And I was telling Dan I used to love to curl my feet up and pick up the little pieces of stones. Mm-hmm. When they lifted me up, I used to actually float up. And I used to uncurl my toes, and all the little bits of gravel used to go back down. And when you are sort of floating up, very, very calm. I never ever had any fear or anything like that. And I could see all the neighbourhood. It was so beautiful, seeing all the neighbourhood and all that sort of thing. But during that stage when I was taken, probably till about 8 years old, every time they took me, I never remembered what happened when I was there. I only remembered going and coming back. But I did see them. They used to appear to me when I was outside playing by myself. They would appear on a platform, probably, about 20 feet in the sky, and they would be on this platform, and there was kind of a mist underneath it, and I would call them my family, and I would I always felt incredibly homesick, because to me they were my family. I felt like I was put in the wrong place.
Right. And
they kept saying to me, no, because I said, please, I don't want to stay here. I want to come back with you. They would always say, no, you can't. We put you with a beautiful family. You can't come back home yet. You've got a job to do. But one day you will. One day you can come home. And sometimes my mother actually used to come outside when I was having this conversation, and of course she used to think I was mad because I would not talk to her, because I didn't want her to interrupt me, go away, who are you? And, and so when the conversation ended and they would go, then I would sort of turn around to her, and she would be so angry with me because I wasn't listening to her,
Right.
And it was very difficult for them, because when I used to come home at night, I come home in the morning from these episodes, I could see the whole neighbourhood, and, it was just quite beautiful. And I used to actually find lost toys for the different children in the neighbourhood, because we all had huge backyards in those days, and, I could find trikes and bikes and toys and things that children had lost because it were, down the bottom of the back garden, all the trees and the rivers were. And I used to go around and tell them where their toys was. And of course, being children, when I told them, that I saw it when I flew home last night, I mean, they were fine with it. They didn't ask any questions. It's only the adults. And when I came home one night, I saw my father's gardening trowel, which is a gardening tool, on the roof. And the next day, I said, I know where your trowel is, Dad. And he said, oh, where? I said, it's on the roof. And he didn't ask any questions or anything. He just got the ladder, and he put it by the, put it on the side of the house. And I said, no, move it over a little bit. And he moved it over, and he started to climb the ladder, got to the top of the ladder, and he looked and he saw the trowel, picked it up, and then all of a sudden it must have clicked in his mind. And he turned around and he said, how on earth did you know this was here? Because being a child, I said, I saw it when I flew home last night, and he was down that ladder so fast, and I got a real spanking for telling lies. And this is how, you kind of come to realize that you don't tell adults.
Right.
Because they think you're lying. They think you're lying, and you're not. And you begin to think that it's so unfair, because this is a reality. It's happening. And, you'd think that even someone would think, well, how did she know that was on the roof? Because the only time, the only place you could see it would be from the air. I mean, I was too small to get up on the roof, obviously. So, but from that age onwards, I never told them anything.
Right.
But I used to have visions as well, and just silly little things really about the next door neighbours adding a bedroom on or putting a bridge over the little river. And I would have these visions, and I would tell my parents, and of course they'd just think it was a child fantasy thing. And of course, when this actually happened, and the next door neighbours did put, an extension on and did build this little bridge, and I'd say to my mother, see, and she'd just say, be quiet. So you soon learn that you don't tell adults anything, because they simply don't believe you. And that's really how it has been most of my life, until probably I got to about 25, when I thought, I really don't care. This has to be out there. People have to know. And, became a UFO researcher to find out as much as I could about what on earth was going on. And, I can honestly say that I have probably spent about $100,000 on research material. And as you were talking about before, about some of the hoaxes and some of the sort of not so good researchers, you have to, I call it, you have to wade through so much rubbish to actually find some true gems. But when you find those true gems, they make so much sense, and they just put that other piece of jigsaw puzzle in there, and you can go, yay, I've got that bit. But researching like this is like a never-ending saga.
Karen, I was just going to say, one of the most fascinating stories you told me is about actually going to their planet and looking at the technology that they have in their world. I thought that was, I think the listeners would find that totally incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, do we have time for that? Is that all right?
Yeah, definitely. And I also wanted to hit on one point that you made when you were describing this. You said that they told you that they put you with a wonderful family.
That's correct. That's correct.
Now, I'm not totally up on it, but am I correct to say that there's a link to the star children theory with this?
Well, you'd think so. That's the only thing that makes sense, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
As I said, I personally believe I was born into it. When they say they put me, I don't, it's not adoption or anything like that. I was born normally, but I used to think I was adopted, and I actually one day went through all my parents' paperwork when I was about 5 years old, trying to find my birth certificate, and I actually couldn't find it. But I'm sure I was properly born to them. But when you're a child and you feel such a closeness to this other community, it was this other family.
Right.
It's so very difficult. And you feel so homesick all the time. It's this terrible aching homesickness that you feel. And you don't know why. And where is home anyway? As a child, you're thinking, well, where is home? Why do I feel like this, And I was put with a very nice family. They were, they, really nice people. Great childhood, great upbringing.
So,
but
how old were you when you actually got to experience the other world and see some of the technologies? How old were you at that point?
17. I was 17.
And what did you? You got to tell me, because I'm dying to know. I'm dying to know.
Okay. Well, I had always asked to be taken to their planet. Always asked, and it wasn't time. I wasn't ready, and of course I probably wasn't. So when I was about 17. I was actually taken to their planet. Now, how this was done was I was flatting at the time with two other girls the same age as me. And believe it or not, I mean, this is the strangest part of the whole story, really. Someone came to the door, and I answered it. I was home alone. I mean, we're talking reality here. We're not talking in a dream. We're not talking asleep or anything like that. And I opened the door, and there was a man there, and he was very human. He would have been about 45. And he said, "It's time." And I said, "Pardon?" And he said, "They are granting you your wish. You are to come with me." And they were going to pick me up and take me to their planet. And I was so, fantastic. And we were right by the marina, by the way, and we actually went by boat. He took me down to the boat. And I actually gathered up my handbag too. I took that with me. That's quite important in the story. And we probably were out, in the boats about 2 hours out from Wellington. Quite a long time. And I ordered, at no stage did I feel any fear whatsoever. And as I said, this is probably the strangest part of the story, really. And we came to what I can only describe as like a foggy area, and he put the boat, it was halfway into the fog, and I thought this was very, very strange. And I said, "Well, what's going on?" And he said, "You have to take the leap of faith. You have to walk into the fog." That was probably the only time I was a bit nervous. I thought, this is very strange, And so I grabbed hold of the railing and I put my foot through it, and the deck was still there. So I walked through, took a breath, and I walked through. And as I did, the fog actually wasn't there. And I turned around, and the fog was actually at the other end of the boat. It had actually switched. Huh. And I thought, oh, this is bizarre. And I thought, well, where are the beings? Where are they? And I went to the end of the boat, and there was a pod. It was a circular pod, and it actually looks like a makeup compact, with a little lip on it. Mm-hmm. Well, obviously you guys don't put powder on, but it's like a makeup compact. And the top part was black, and the bottom part was white, like an orca, or like a killer whale. And the top part opened, and there was one male there, and he was dressed in a light blue tight-fitting jumpsuit, and he just took my hand, and I was ready to go. I thought, this is going to be great. And so I went down into this pod, and there were two seats in it, and the lid closed, and there was one row of a window. I was going to call it windows, but it's not. It was a curved around the pod, and so you could see out where you were going. And all of a sudden, this pod went straight underwater and zoomed around, and I thought it's fantastic. I thought, wow, this is just amazing, and it was so fast and sleek and slick, and it was just incredible. But I had no idea what I was going to see. It was just blew my mind. As we were coming in the water, I started to see this glow in the distance, and I thought, what on earth is that? And it was a very big glow, and the closer we got, I realised that this was an underground city. And it was absolutely incredible. And the only thing I can relate to your audience about what it looked like from the underwater aspect is if you take the craft, the large craft in Close Encounters, and you turn it upside down and you have all these spires and colourful lights and tubes, that is what it looked like underneath the water. But it was 5 times the size of that. It was just huge. And this turned out to be only for the craft to shoot up. I could see the craft shooting up as we were coming towards it. And it was just magical. I was just stunned. I thought, what? This is just incredible. I thought, how can this be? It's just so beautiful. It's so huge. And we went out one of these glass, I say glass, but it probably wasn't made of glass, but you can see through it. It was like a tube and a spire, and we actually shot up through that. And we came to what obviously was a landing bay where there were other craft there. And the top part of the pod popped open, and another male being was there to meet me. And again, he had dark hair and was dressed in the same kind of blue jumpsuit. He had very pale skin tone. They all had pale skin tone. But these people had the most amazing blue eyes. It was like looking into... the waters off Antarctica where you get the greeny, bluey ice. It was like that. They were just so beautiful. And he talked to me verbally and asked me to follow him because he was going to take me to the room that they had prepared for me. And I was just so excited. I thought, this is incredible. And as we walked, I realised this must be an enormous city that we were in. And it was just... As we walked, I noticed that every single part of the building, every object, everything had no sharp angles. Like there was no 45-degree angle, everything was curved, the corridors were curved. And later I was told, because I asked about this, that they had learnt many thousands of years ago that any sort of dwelling where you live or anything traps the energy flow if you have all these sharp angles. And so it's for the good of their race,
right,
and for the energy to be in this, everything flows. And anyway, we came to this section, I suppose you call it, where there were about 5 holes in the floor. And I didn't understand what it was, of course, and he actually explained to me they were like lifts. And I thought, lift? And I looked into one of these holes and it just went straight down. I thought, no way am I getting in that. No way. And he said, what you need to do is, he said, it won't hurt you at all. He said, it's all done on sort of an air cushion basis. And when you actually step on it, it evaluates how heavy you are, everything about you, and it will stabilise, and you won't feel anything at all. But like just stepping on air. Took a lot of convincing. I did not want to get on there.
So
when you got down, you was like, ooh, I thought, how many deaths would there be? But he said I had to put my hand on the panel which was in front of me, and this was a metallic panel, and so I actually took the plunge and I stepped on one of these holes, and it actually cushioned me, and it was quite beautiful. You didn't actually feel like you were moving at all. You weren't at that stage. And then I put my hand on the console, which was a square, well, no, it's not a square, an oblong metallic console. And when you did that, it felt very shiny, kind of wet and silky. And if you've ever seen Korean photography where the aura of the body is shown around the photo, this is what happened when you put your hand on it. It was like it interacted with me. It knew who I was. It knew exactly who I was and where to take me. And it's like it was it was actually like it was living. It was a living part of the complex. Oh. when I just felt it was so beautiful. I didn't want to take my hand off it. I thought, this is really quite an amazing feeling. And so I put my hand off, because I realised obviously I wasn't going to go anywhere until I took my hand off. And it gently, this lift gently pushed me up probably about, I think it was about 3 floors. And I quite enjoyed it. I thought, oh, that was actually really nice. I shouldn't have been scared after all, but of course, new things and strange-looking things.
Sure.
And I got off the elevator, I suppose, not the elevator, the lift, got off, and there was a curved corridor, and he had already told me to turn to the right and keep walking until I found the open door, and that would be my room. So I kept walking, and as I walked, I noticed, of course, there were other rooms there, and there was a little round circle beside each door, and it was all colour-coded. Like one door would be like a maroon colour with a maroon circle beside it. Another one would be like a lime colour with a lime colour beside it. And later I found out that these were all for different people, different societies and different cultures from our own planet. And the room was specifically designed to be, so you wouldn't feel ill at ease. You'd feel very welcome in your own, like you were sitting in a room on Earth.
Right.
And when I got to mine, the doors open. Mine was actually yellow, and I walked in, and it was absolutely beautiful. They had like a beautiful lounge, and as I said, everything's curved, and it has a beautiful energy when you walk into a place like that. And the room was ivory white, and it had a beautiful ivory white couch that was curved around, and on this couch it had round pillows, which were the most beautiful colours, like violet, teal green, pink, just absolutely gorgeous. And so I wandered around a bit, and I had a look, and I found just off the sitting room, I guess you can call it, the lounge area, was a balcony. And so I immediately went out onto the balcony, and I actually overlooked the section that I was in. And it was huge. It was absolutely huge. As I said, it's like looking at, turning around and looking at these huge spires that just go straight up into the air, and you realise that this is only one section of a city, and there's like 50 spires around you. So there's just so many people, so many beings, that are in the city. And as I looked down, I could see people walking in amongst these beautiful gardens. They were absolutely gorgeous, beautiful colours. And I wanted to yell out, but I didn't. And then a lady actually came into the room, and I didn't actually realise she was there at first. And I turned around, how you actually feel someone's behind you. And so I turned around, and there she was, and she was absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful woman. And she had on a tray a drink, and it looked limeish colour. And she told me that this was my drink for the day. And so I said, well, what's in it? And she said, every nutrient that you possibly need is in this drink. So I took a sip of it, and oh, Lordy, it was just so gorgeous. It was like the best fruit cocktail you could ever have, with like a tinge of effervescence, and the lime taste came through more than anything else. And so I drank that, and I later learned that is absolutely all they had to eat. They only had one of these glasses of juice every single day, and that totally nourished their bodies. Sorry, in every possible way. They didn't need food at all. And so I drank this. I thought, oh, it's just divine. I wanted more. But she left, and she actually, before she left, she said, you're probably tired, you probably need a rest. So she took me into the bedroom. The bedroom was just off the living room. And I thought this was so strange. The bedroom was quite sparse, but coming out of the wall with nothing to support it whatsoever, looked like this thin piece of screwed up plastic. And the only thing I can relate to it is, you know how you get a wine box, a box of wine, and you finish the wine, and you take out the wine bladder. And that's how it looked. It looked like a wine bladder, all sort of sucked out, you know, with no air in it, nothing.
Right.
And I thought to myself, good grief, that looks the most uncomfortable, you know, kind of bed you could possibly think of. Now, these people are also telepaths, and everything I thought they heard, obviously. And I would get this the whole time of my visit. They would just laugh. I'd laugh at my thoughts, laugh at what I thought, because they found it very funny, some of the things I was thinking. And she assured me it would be very, very comfortable without even me having to say, you know, it doesn't look comfortable, because obviously she read my mind, and I really thought, oh, this is, you know, how am I going to sleep on that? But as I sat on it, it totally filled up with air, and it was the most softest, beautiful, it was like a cocoon. When you lay down, it cocooned its way around your body, and when you turned or anything like that, it followed you. So it was like an absolute bliss. And I was asleep probably within about half an hour. You know, it was beautiful.
So,
and
not to interrupt, but so everyone that you're describing that you've seen, they were all very humanoid looking. I mean, I haven't heard any description of any type of the typical gray, you know, the grays description. Did you see anything like that? So most of them were all very humanoid looking, yes?
Absolutely. This particular race was, I mean, you could pass them in the street and you wouldn't know a guy or that's a really good looking woman. You wouldn't know that they're not human. In fact, while I was there, I mean, this is typical me, but to me the woman looked like they were wearing makeup. They looked so good. And I was allowed to try and remove it.
Were you able to?
No. I tried to get it off their face. I thought, that's impossible. You know, what kind of foundation are you wearing? And their lipstick, it looked like lipstick, but it wasn't. And I felt her eyelashes, and they were very thick and very lush, but there was no way there was mascara on it. And so these beings looked like that very naturally. And, of course, the main thing that came to my mind was, I wonder whether our earthly obsession with makeup that started thousands of years ago in Egypt is because we're trying to look like these people. We're trying to look like our cousins, our ancestors, whatever one of you call these people. And we've created, you know, this industry of makeup to look better, because we want to emulate what these people look like, you know. And believe me, I tried to get this, you know, it took me a while, and I was rubbing, and I was, you know, the lips, the eyes, and the cheeks and everything was totally natural. They were just beautiful, beautiful people, you know, and beautiful looking, beautiful nature, extremely calm, and just an incredible feeling to be around. You knew you were with beings that were so advanced from what you were, and so how do you put it, spiritually aware of who they are, where they are, and what they are.
Right.
Where, of course, we aren't like that on this planet. Anyway, I had finished, when I got up that morning, the lady came to my room again. This is the same lady, and she had the juice, and I was very eager, of course, to take it because it was so beautiful. So I drank this juice, and she told me that someone would be with me shortly and who would guide me during my stay there. And not long after she left, another man arrived, dressed exactly the same as most of the others were, in the light pale blue jumpsuit. And he told me to follow him, and as he was taking me to see some people. And he walked in front of me, and as we were walking along the curved hallway, I kept thinking to myself, I wonder if there is something I can take back with me, to prove this actually happened. And I keep forgetting that they are telepaths. They could read everything in my mind. And he turned around and he just looked at me and sort of, as if, you try.
So you weren't able to smuggle anything out of there?
Well, I tried to. I tried to, definitely. I did take something. Because as we're walking along, they actually had, what would you call it? It was a bit like a window box, and they had plants in these window boxes. And laying around the plants were these things that looked a little bit like pine cones.
Uh-huh.
You know how you get Christmas trees? So actually I did take 2 of those back with me, but as you'll find out later, that didn't work out. But anyway, he took me, this guide, he was my main guide, he was with me for the next couple of days, and as we walked around the city, and as he took me down further, of course you'd go down under the water, and you could just see this, it was actually just beautiful. You were submerged, you could see marine life, you could see fish, and they weren't like alien fish, they just looked like normal fish to me. And he took me down a corridor, and this is the only part of the building, or the city, that I could tell that he put me, opened the door, and it was like a normal office you would have here on Earth. And sitting at a desk was like a government official, American government official.
Oh.
And he was wearing, yes, he was wearing a military uniform, and it was like they'd furnished the room for him to make him feel comfortable, and it was oblong, so it did have right angles, and it had this big oak desk. And he stood up and he had his hands behind his back like a real military, and he said, you've been brought here because you've been asked, you've asked so many times, and we've decided that you do, deserve to visit here, but you can't stay. You have to go home, but we have allowed you to come here.
Uh-huh.
Now, straight away when I was assessing this guy, I thought, you're the token human. They've only put you here, you're like this military guy who thinks he's in charge, but you're not. You're, what do you call it? You're,
puppet?
When you're sort of, yeah. I mean, he was actually, and very, very stiff upper lippish kind of guy, had no sense of humour whatsoever.
Uh-huh.
And he took me over to one of the side of where this office was. He opened up these doors, and that opened up onto an enormous sized, it was almost like a hangar, but it would be like at least 2 football fields in size. It was huge. And the room was full of people, again, these beings, but they were working on some kind of consoles, and it was just like row after row after row of these consoles. And I thought, this is incredible, and they were like computers, but much smaller. And some had images on them, but others had like strands of information quickly, going up and up and up. And because I could only obviously see the first couple of rows because it just went on forever. Mm-hmm. Then I realised there was a group of men that were just beside me, and they were all so excited, Karen, oh, it's so wonderful. They told us you were coming, and I was just, so stunned because these guys were very, very human. They were not the alien beings. They were not anything to do with them. And there would have been probably about 25 of them, and I'd say their ages ranged from about 25 to 35. And they all started talking at once, and I said, hang on, just, one at a time. And I said, how long have you been here? And one of them said, well, I've been here 100 years. And I said, but you look 25. And he said, yes, well, you don't age. There is no age. You don't age here. And they'd actually got dressed in the same clothes that they had when they arrived there, but they'd done that for my benefit. Okay, so I could see the different era in clothing. So you could actually look at someone and go, well, that's the 1920s, definitely. And you could look at someone else and go, well, that's definitely 1950s. And then I noticed they were looking and pointing out to me at the, I don't know, about 20 feet away at the back. There was a huge screen hanging up. I guess you'd call it a hologram now, but at the time I didn't know that's what it was. And they said, we come here so we can not keep in touch, but look at see how our families are doing, see how our loved ones are doing. And they allow us to come here and watch over our family, see what they're doing. And they said, it's Ted's turn today. And so they pointed out who Ted was, and Ted was, quite a young-looking guy. Excuse me. And so we all looked up on the screen, and it was showing an elderly lady that would have been in her 70s carrying a bag of groceries up a pathway towards an apartment. And she was wearing a light pink sort of woolen suit, and she had grey hair, and it was in a bun. And I turned around to him and I said, oh, is this your grandmother? And he looked at me and he said, no, it's my wife. And I thought, oh my God. And I said, you look, I said, that means you've been here about 40 years. He said, yes, that's right. And he said, they allow us to come here and look at our families and make sure they're doing very well. And I said, but don't you get sad watching your wife grow old, and don't you get sad that she's all alive? And he said, yes, we do. I said, don't you ever want to go back? And they all sort of looked at me as if, man, you're so green, you don't know nothing. And they said, Karen, imagine living in a world where all the questions you've ever had in your life, you get the answers to. Imagine living in a world where there's no disease or sickness. You can live in perfect health, you don't age, and you're in a world which is totally peaceful with the most incredible technology, and everything is just amazing. And at that moment, I just felt so envious. I thought, this is, I would like to live here. And I remember my guide, who was actually behind me, I turned around at him, and because I had that running through my head, I don't want to go. And again, he looked at me as if, you've been told you're only a visitor. But I thought, no, I have to change their minds. I just didn't want to go back. And anyway, we left that area, and he took me to, that's right, I said to them, I was talking to him about the medical advancements that they have, and I said, well, how do you I know the juice that you have keeps you in perfect health. I said, but that wouldn't stop accidents happening. Say if you cut yourself or you're in a accident of some kind, how do you deal with that? And he said, well, would you like to see our medical bay? And I said, oh, yes, I would love to. So he took me, we had to step on the holes again, the lift, so we went down a few floors, and he took me into this room, which was quite small, really. And I said to myself, wow, this is, for a whole big city, is this the only medical centre that you've got? And he could obviously read my mind, and he said, yes, this is all we need. And I thought, this is crazy for such a huge city. And there was another being there, which I guess you'd call a doctor. And so I started asking them questions. I said, well, what happens if someone has a cut or someone even is in an accident and may even lose a limb? And so he said, well, I'll actually show you how we do this. And so he called a lady in who was either his assistant or just another being from the planet. I'm really not sure. And he actually pushed on a console, and a bed came out, much like the bed that I was sleeping in, but it had a little dip in it. So when she actually laid on this console, but it also had an area where you put your arms and where you put your legs. So there were protrusions going out for your legs and your arms. And he took what was, I suppose you'd call it a scalpel. was equivalent to a scalpel, and he made a long incision on the upper end of her arm, and she didn't wince, it looked like there was no pain whatsoever, but there was a definite deep cut there. I thought, oh no, what have I done? Now I've asked someone to hurt themselves, really. But she was fine. She was smiling, and she said, I'm fine. And he pushed another console, and out came the equivalent to what was on the bottom. So it went over her body. And as it started to heal, he explained to me that their technology can actually select just purely the damaged cells alone and somehow take them back before they were damaged. So you're actually more or less taking the damaged area back in time. And I know that sounds crazy, but I've also been explained that time is absolutely not as we humans think it is. It's not linear.
Right.
Anyway, and as I said, he said the only tissue or cells that is affected are the damaged cells themselves. And I could see it. It just healed up absolutely beautifully. And within a few seconds, it was just gone. There was nothing there. And so I got her arm once this contraption was out of the way, and I had a look, and you just couldn't see anything. And I said, okay, well, what happens if someone loses a limb? I said, you haven't got the arm there to do that with. And he told me that everything is energy. Everything about the body is energy. And if you lose a leg, you still have the energy that is around that, like that people, amputees get that phantom pain syndrome.
Phantom limb, yeah.
Yeah, and he said that the machine or the technology focuses in on that energy and rebuilds it from the cellular memory of that energy. And it made perfect sense to me, actually.
It reminds me of what happens with, and this is the way I'm picturing for what you're describing to me. It reminds me of, take a lizard, for example. If you pick a lizard up by the tail, it'll break off its tail.
That's right.
And it will eventually grow back. And they found that in people that are younger, we're talking, 4, 5, 6. If they were to lose, there have been cases where I think there was a 3-year-old had lost her pinky in some sort of an accident, and strangely enough, that pinky started to regrow. I mean, it didn't grow back exactly, but with the right conditions, it grew back enough. The fact that it grew back was amazing in itself, which eventually, as you get older, you lose this ability to regenerate like that. I mean, it's not perfect.
That's because you're taught. We're taught that these things aren't real. It can't happen. We all have this ability, in us, but everything has been so suppressed, and that's why children can do these kinds of things. And maybe the lizards don't even realise the tail's gone.
Right.
And so it builds it on its own because it doesn't realise it's gone. Because I used to have lizards myself, and I used to see it exactly what you're talking about. The tails used to come off, and I didn't pull the tails off purposely, but they used to grow back.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things that you described as well, sorry to interrupt, but whenever you talked about the lift that you were on, when you put your hand on the console, that it was as if though the technology, in a sense, was kind of alive. It knew exactly what you wanted to do and everything like that. Yeah. I listened to an amazing interview with Dr. Kaku. He's a theoretical physicist, and he was talking about computers, on how the technology that we have right now. He wrote a book recently called The Rust Belt of Silicon Valley, something of that nature, where he talks about with silicon chips, we can only go so small with those. And the reason why we can only go so small with them is because of the circuitry, as the electricity, as the energy is passing through a particular circuit or line, it'll actually spark over. It'll short circuit because it's so close together. So we can only go so small with technology. And so the only evolutionary step to take with computers is to go with a laser type system, a laser processing computer, or a DNA type computer.
DNA. That's right.
And what he said was with this processing power, I mean, they can go to enormous heights when it comes to technology and processing power, to the point of that with this speed that they could actually have with computer systems, that computers themselves, you can actually then move into the realm of artificial intelligence, much like, for example, the internet itself. The internet is it's kind of a living being in itself, but it's very retarded in a sense, because you ask it a question, it gives you over 3 million answers. But with this type of computing power, the internet will eventually evolve into a system where you can actually speak to it, and millions of people can actually speak to it, and it'll speak directly back to you. So for whenever you describe that particular putting your hand on that console where it can know you and know exactly what it is that you want to do, I thought was very interesting, because it reminded me of this interview with Dr. Kaku and the theoretical physicist about just that, about technology knowing and being intelligent to the point of where your interaction with it is on a very personal level.
It is. And actually, the very next thing that I was shown was this metal. The very next thing, because once I'd seen the medical side of things, I asked to go to the place where they made the pods, made the metallic objects that they use to get around the city and get around underwater. And so he agreed to take me to this place, and I call it technology heaven, because it was absolutely incredible. And how they actually made these pods, I mean, they had no nuts or bolts, rivets or joins or anything like that. The metal itself was actually poured into a mold, and the metal, as I said, has its own intelligence. It is almost like telepathic. It knows where it's supposed to go, and it fills up these spaces. It fills the consoles. It fills everything, and it has this beautiful. As I said, even though it's set, when it does set, it has this gorgeous touch to it. It reacts to you. It knows you, and it knows. It's like talking to a pet. It's just like.
Let me stop you right there. Yeah. We're gonna be taking a break here shortly. I just wanted to jump in real quick, because we're actually going to be losing Seattle here in about a minute or so. So for all you folks out there in Seattle, we want to thank you for tuning in to us on Contact Talk Radio, KRWM 106.9 FM HD3. My program is actually going to go for another hour. So if any of you out there in Seattle want to continue listening to the rest of this tonight's program, you can go to WPRTradio.com. And there you can listen through the internet to the rest of tonight's broadcast. My